Hey Piper, back at you with another one on Tuesday, two in one day, and thank you for welcoming me back in your home again and sharing a bowl of your favorite pipe and tobacco with me. So go ahead and do that and get you a good bowl of your favorite blend packed in your bowl in your favorite pipe, and let's fire up. I got a little story I wanna tell, retell. It's not mine originally, but I seen it on Facebook today, and it's a cute story. And some of y'all may have heard it, and some of you hadn't. And to those even that have heard it, it's a cute little story, and it's fun to retell it and hear it again. Some housekeeping. I am going to be smoking with y'all a blend from Strauss Tobacconist that Denali Dave sent me called Morning View, and I've enjoyed that immensely. It's very close to that Wall Street that I'm so high on. And I've also enjoyed the, I think it's Blue Note or something, Blue something. It's an English blend, great blend. And I'm just beginning to get a little bit of a taste for an English blend. And that, of course, the Northwoods that Toilet Maker Larry, two of the best Englishes that I've had in a while. And I'm smoking it in a little no-name Danish-made pipe. I call this my camel pipe because it's got a hump. I don't know why they put that hump there. I bought it because I like the beveling in the bowl and the shape of it. Got this from Don Juan several months back. And I like the stem on it. It's an okay smoker. The draw is not just perfect on it. It's not as good as some, but it's one I hadn't smoked on YouTube in a while, and I like to get it out and smoke it. Once you get her cranked up, it'll come on around. So let me get it. I got the initial char going, and let's get her lit back up. I'm gonna move pretty fast, but I don't know how long this thing will take. But first, let me give you some history of a family that's here in Monroe, Louisiana, where I live. I live in West Monroe, and two companies. The family is the Biedenhorn family, and it's spelled like Bidenhorn, but around here it's pronounced Biedenhorn. And the story originates with Mr. Joe Biedenhorn from Vicksburg, who migrated to Monroe sometime after the turn of the century in the 1900s. To those of you that are not familiar with Mr. Joe Biedenhorn, he is the first one that bottled Coca-Cola. Up until that point, Coca-Cola was started in Atlanta by a pharmacist named Pemberton. And Mr. Biedenhorn had a retail and wholesale candy or confectionery there in Vicksburg. And they had a wholesale route. They sold candy and whatnot. And some of Pemberton's people approached him about taking on the selling Coca-Cola, the old soda jerk, in his little retail store and becoming a distributor for their syrup in the little surrounding areas there in Vicksburg and some others, pharmacies and soda jerks, ice cream places and whatnot. Well, in the late 1800s, our story starts in 1894. Mr. Joe was doing a booming business with his candy and supplying several locations with the Coca-Cola syrup. At that time, the only place you could get Coca-Cola was, at a soda jerk place, a pharmacy that jerked sodas or ice cream parlor or whatever. And Mr. Biedenhorn thought, it would be nice if we're already out in these country places delivering these little country stores our candy and stuff. Wouldn't it be nice if we could offer them the Coca-Cola line? And he invented how to successfully bottle the Coca-Cola. Well, the rest is history as we know it today. Sometimes right after the turn of the century, Mr. Joe Beatenhorn moved to Monroe. And there he started up a big bottling plant, which is still here today. One time it was Coca-Cola's largest, and through the years that family became Coca-Cola's largest independent bottler. And they had 12 or 14 bottling plants scattered across the country. Well, about 10 years ago, Coca-Cola made them an offer and bought them out for $250 million. And Coca-Cola wants to control. There's only 2 or 3 family-owned bottling plants anymore left in this country. They've managed to buy them all back. But for many, many years, the vast majority were not company operated. They were owned by families or companies or whatnot. Anyway, they sold. But Mr. Beatenhorn got a royalty for years and years, especially off of that returnable bottle. All right, well, enter the 1920s. Mr. Beatenhorn's doing very successful with it. Enter a gentleman, and I can't remember his name, who they formed an airline company here called, at the time it was called Huff, they were in the agricultural business. I think it was Huff Dealing. They were crop dusting. Mr. Beatenhorn was an investor in it, and a pretty heavy investor in it. It evolved from crop dusting to hauling mail, and then they named it in the late 20s Delta Airlines here in Monroe. And they began to pick up a few passenger routes and had expanded their route from Monroe to Fort Worth back to Monroe to Atlanta, and then down they had a couple of routes down to Miami and some in the Carolinas, and then they purchased a company and a little small regional mail service, passenger service there out of Chicago. So in 1941, Delta Airlines moved from Monroe, Louisiana to Atlanta, Georgia, where they're headquartered today. Same as Coca-Cola. All right, now let's fast forward to about 1982, 81 or so, 82. This is where our story will begin. For years and years, like I say, Delta was founded in Monroe. And even when they moved to Atlanta, year after year after year, they would have their annual stockholders meeting in the Central Bank building downtown. It's about an 8 or 9 story building, and one whole floor nearly is dedicated to the Delta room, and it's a place where they would have their annual shareholders, and there would be hundreds of people come. They'd come to Monroe every year and have this meeting. Well, like I say, fast forward to about the early 80s, 80, 81, 82, and this is a story that Jerry Clower told on, you could get it on cassette, for you old goats that are my age and older, most of you will remember Jerry Clower. Some of you younger ones will too. But Jerry was a humorist. He was a comedian, a southern comedian from Yazoo City, Mississippi. He told about the Ledbetters, Uncle Versi, and the Ledbetter boys, Marcel Ledbetter. He was just a country comedian in the 60s and 70s. And he told this one, and this one was the truth. A lot of his were homespun yarns and tales. This actually happened, but it's a cute story. All right, so we say it's 1981. They're having the annual board meeting and stockholders meeting, and they got through with a lot of their business. And this young, preppy-looking guy stands up. I guess they had asked, is there any new business? And this young, preppy-looking guy from Harvard, he stood up and he said, every year we make the trek back to Monroe, Louisiana to the annual stockholders meeting every year. Monroe's a town of about 60,000 people. Nothing against you people here in Monroe, but there's just not anything to do here. But yet we come back year after year after year. I make a motion that every year we move it to somewhere different, exotic, like maybe Tahoe or Reno or Las Vegas, or we go to Hawaii, or every year. Let's vote on it for the next year and move it. Get it out of Monroe. Let's do something exciting. And he said, I vote my family's 10,000 shares of Delta Airlines that we do that. And another guy stood up and he said, I second that motion. He said, it's tough coming back to Monroe. He said, I vote my family's 25,000 shares. And let's get it. Let's do something a little more exciting. Another guy stood up. He said, I also I concur, and I'd like to vote my family's 55,000 shares that we do just that. And they went around the room. They was getting up, some voting 10,000 share blocks, some voting 70 and 80. Back in the corner, leaned up against the wall, was a descendant. I think he may have been Mr. Joe's son. If not, he was a grandson. Man in his 50s, standing, leaning back up against the wall in the corner. Had on a pair of those Dickie work pants, tan, khaki shirt, khaki pants. Had one cuff leg down in his boots. Had his arms folded. Several of them had voted these big blocks of shares. And he strolled up to the podium and he said, my name is B.W. Beatenhorn. I would like to vote my family's 2 million shares of Delta Airlines and welcome y'all back to Monroe next year. Y'all take care and have a good one, and God bless.